She voted me most likely to die alone. Now she needs the mechanic she despised to save her company. It's just cheap gloss paper and ink that started fading 5 years ago, but holding it still makes the air in the room feel heavy, like a storm is coming. I was sitting in my home office late at night. The only light was the desk lamp in the corner, casting long, jagged shadows against the wall. I was staring at the class of 2013 yearbook. The spine is broken, cracked right down the center, so it naturally flops open to the same page every single time. There I was, 18 years old, bad haircut with choppy, uneven bangs that I definitely cut myself, acne mapping out red constellations on my chin. My shoulders were hunched forward, trying to cave my chest in, looking like I wanted to dissolve right into the background. And right next to my face, written in electric blue glitter gel pen, was her handwriting. Sarah Jenkins. She had taken a black Sharpie, crossed out the printed text that said, most likely to succeed, and wrote her own category, most likely to die alone. She wasn't a bully. Bullies are loud and simple. They just want you to cry. Sarah was worse. She was a critic. She was the kind of girl who floated through the hallways, like she was breathing cleaner air than the rest of us. She looked at people and calculated their market value. She looked at me, the quiet kid in the back with grease permanently etched into his fingerprints, and she made a call. She didn't hate me. She just did the math and decided I was a scrap part, a write-off. That was 10 years ago. I slammed the book shut, watching the dust motes dance in the shaft of light. Time to go to work. My shop, Ironclad Customs, is an assault on the senses. It's loud, a constant mix of air tools screaming like banshees, metal grinding on metal, and the heavy, rhythmic thud of tires hitting concrete. The smell hits you the second you walk in, a thick, chemical cocktail of spent oil, sharp ozone from the welders, and unburnt high-octane gas. To most people, it stinks like labor. To me, it smells like money. I was under a '69 Camaro, deep in the guts of the engine, my hands covered in the kind of black grease that settles into your pores and stays there for days. Then the door chimed. It was a cheerful electronic ding that completely clashed with the grinding noise of the shop. I slid out from under the chassis and stood up, wiping my forehead with a rag that was dirtier than I was. I looked toward the glass front door. The sun was blinding, but I knew the silhouette instantly. It was Sarah, but she looked wrong. The resolution was off. In high school, Sarah Jenkins was terrifyingly perfect. Porcelain skin, hair that looked like spun gold, and clothes that never wrinkled. The woman standing in my shop was fraying at the edges. She was wearing a beige power suit, cashmere, definitely expensive, but it hung on her frame. It looked a size too big, like she'd lost 10 pounds in a week from stress. The skirt was loose at her hips. Her hair, that famous honey blonde hair, was pulled back in a severe bun, but it wasn't perfect. Loose strands were escaping, hanging limp around her face, and her eyes were the worst part. They were red-rimmed, and beneath them, the skin was bruised purple, poorly hidden by a layer of concealer that was starting to crack. She looked exhausted, bone deep, the kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. She was clutching a manila envelope to her chest with both hands, her knuckles white, pressing so hard the skin looked translucent. She pushed the door open, and the shop went quiet. The guys stopped working. They smelled the cash, sure, but they also smelled the desperation. It has a scent, sour, sharp like copper. She walked to the counter. She didn't recognize me. Why would she? I'm 6'2" now, broad-shouldered, and covered in grime. I'm looking for the owner, she said. Her voice was thin and brittle, like dried leaves stepping on pavement. You found him. She blinked. She looked at the grease smears on my gray t-shirt, then at the tattoos on my forearm. Finally, she looked at my face. It took a second, but then the recognition hit her like a physical slap. Mock. Hello, Sarah. I didn't smile, and I didn't offer a hand. I just leaned back against the cold steel counter and waited. She laid it out, and honestly, it was pathetic. She owns an event planning company, Jenkins and Company. High-end stuff. But she's broke. A massive vendor pulled out. The bank cut her line of credit, and she's sinking. She showed me the letter with the big red stamp, rejected. I need 50,000, she said, her voice barely a whisper, to bridge the gap. I heard the owner of Ironclad does private lending. I didn't know it was you. If you knew, would you have come? Silence. She looked down at the dirty concrete floor. No. I picked up the papers. My greasy fingerprints left smudges on the pristine white pages. It was a solid plan. She knows her numbers. She's just bleeding cash. I could write the check right now, and it wouldn't even hurt. But I wasn't going to make it easy. I remember the yearbook, Sarah. She froze. All the color drained from her face, leaving her looking pale and sickly. You voted me, most likely to die alone. I was a kid, she said, her voice steadying. I was arrogant. I didn't know anything. You looked at me and saw a loser. I looked at you and didn't see anything, she corrected, meeting my eyes. That was my mistake, not yours. She wasn't begging. She was owning it. That surprised me. My family thinks you were right. I said, my mom is constantly on my back, and my sister is getting married. They look at me with pity. The lonely mechanic. I leaned over the counter, invading her space. I could smell her perfume, vanilla, and something expensive, fighting a losing battle against the smell of motor oil. I'll give you the money. 0 interest. Her head snapped up, eyes wide. Hope is a dangerous look on her, but you have to work for it. I pointed a greasy finger at her. My family does a winter vacation every year. 10 days at a cabin in Aspen. We leave in 2 weeks. It is hell. My aunts, my sister, my cousins, they all corner me. They ask why I'm single. They try to set me up. I paused to let it sink in. I need a buffer. I need a girlfriend. Someone to stand next to me and make them shut up. Someone to make them believe I'm not lonely. I expected her to say no, to look disgusted. Deal, she said. Fast. No hesitation. Not even a blink. I frowned. That was fast. You don't even like me, Sarah. You think I'm the help. And you just agreed to be trapped in a cabin with me for 10 days. She straightened up, and the trembling in her hands finally stopped. She looked me dead in the eye. I have 48 hours before payroll bounces, Mark. Her voice was cold steel. If payroll bounces, my staff don't get paid. They leave. The company folds. I built this company from nothing. It is the only thing in my life that is mine. She stepped closer. I would scrub your floors with a toothbrush if it meant saving my business. So if the price is acting like I like you for a week, that's cheap. I don't have the luxury of dignity right now. I have a bottom line. I stared at her. I thought she was a princess. I was wrong. She was a fighter. All right, I said. Let's draw up the terms. I picked her up on Tuesday for a strategy dinner. I left the Porsche in the garage and took the shop truck, a 1978 F. 250 with rusted fenders, a loud exhaust, and suspension that rattles your teeth. She came out wearing white. It was a silk sundress that floated around her legs. She looked like she belonged on a yacht in Monaco, not standing on a cracked sidewalk next to a rust bucket. She stopped and looked at the door handle, which is held on by silver duct tape. Get in, I yelled over the engine roar. Door sticks. You gotta yank it. She didn't complain. She didn't roll her eyes. She grabbed the handle, yanked it open, and climbed up, hiking up that expensive silk. Snap. She broke a nail. I saw the grimace, but she didn't say a word. We went to Sully's, a dive bar with sticky tables and neon signs buzzing too loud. We sat down, and she folded her hands on the table, trying to minimize contact with the grime. Her skin looked painfully clean against the scarred wood. So, she said, what's the story? How did we meet? You tell me. We met at a library. No. Look at me. Do I look like I hang out in libraries? I gestured to the tattoos and the grease still under my nails. We met here. You had a flat tire outside. I fixed it. You saw me working. You fell in love with my hands. I put my hands on the table. They are ugly hands, scarred, calloused, knuckles swollen, with permanent black lines in the fingerprints. She looked at them. She hesitated. Then she reached out. Her hand was small, pale, and manicured, smooth as glass. The contrast was ridiculous. Okay, she said softly. I fell in love with your hands. She reached out and touched a jagged white scar running down my thumb. How did you get this? Slip with a wrench, bone deep. She didn't pull away. She traced the scar, and her skin was warm, soft. The heat from her fingertips shot up my arm like an electric shock. I'm sorry, she whispered. She wasn't looking at the scar anymore. She was looking at me. Her eyes were green. I never noticed that before. About high school. I really am. I pulled my hand back, snapping the connection. I wasn't ready for that. Drink your beer, Sarah. It's getting warm. Aspen. The cabin. It was massive, with timber beams, floor-to-ceiling windows, and snow piled up to the sill. My family was already there, and it was total chaos. Kids screaming, my mom shouting about food, and my dad hiding in the garage. And, of course, the sleeping arrangements were tight. "You two are in the loft," Mom said, beaming as she pinched my cheek. Best view. The loft had one bed. A king size, sure, but one bed. I carried the bags up. Sarah followed. She had changed into a thick, oversized cable-knit sweater, cream-colored, swallowing her hands, and tight jeans tucked into fur-lined boots. Her hair was up in a messy bun with loose wisps framing her face. She looked softer here, less armored. I threw the bags down. "I'll take the couch downstairs later, once they're asleep." Sarah looked at the bed, then at me. "Don't be stupid. It's a huge bed. If your sister sees you on the couch, the deal is dead and I don't get paid." So we shared the bed. The first night was awkward. We lay there like planks of wood, afraid to move, afraid to breathe too loud. I could smell her shampoo, vanilla, floral, and something underneath it like warm skin. It was distracting. Day 3. This is where the shift happened. My family is loud and disorganized. My mom tries to cook for 12 people, but she burns the toast and lets the bacon go cold. It's usually a disaster zone. I walked into the kitchen at 8 a.m. expecting screaming. Instead, it was quiet, organized. Sarah was at the island, sleeves pushed up to her elbows, chopping fruit with terrifying speed. "Okay, Linda," she said to my mom. "The eggs need 2 minutes on low heat. Don't touch them. Karen, toast duty, for slices at a time. Butter immediately. Dad, coffee is ready on the table." And they were listening. My mom, who hates taking orders, was nodding. "Okay, Sarah. 2 minutes." My dad was sitting down, actually drinking coffee instead of hiding. I stood in the doorway, confused. What is happening? Sarah looked up. Her face was flushed pink from the heat of the oven, and there was a smudge of flour on her cheek. She brushed a loose strand of hair out of her eyes with the back of her wrist. "Mock, sit down. Eat. We're on a schedule. Slope's at 10. A schedule. She's amazing." Mom chirped. She reorganized the pantry. "Why didn't you tell me she was so organized?" "Because he's a guy, Linda." Sarah winked. I sat down and stabbed my eggs. Perfect. Fluffy. Hot. I watched her move. She wasn't the cold CO anymore. She was laughing with my sister, handing my dad the paper. She fit in. It was annoying. She was supposed to be a buffer, not the favorite child. "You're trying too hard," I whispered when she poured me coffee. She leaned down, lips close to my ear. I could feel her breath. "I'm an event planner, Mark. Chaos makes me itch. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this because if I watch your mother burn one more piece of toast, I'm going to lose my mind." She patted my shoulder. "Eat your eggs." Day 5. Outside. The snow was deep powder and the sun was bright. My cousins decided to start a snowball fight. Usually, I sit out and drink beer on the porch. Sarah was next to me, wearing a white puffer jacket with a fur hood. She looked like a snow bunny, her cheeks bright red from the cold. "You helping them?" she asked, nodding at my nephew who was getting pummeled. "Nah, character building." She rolled her eyes. Useless. She put her beer down in the snow and marched into the yard. "Hey," she yelled. Cousin Mike turned around. "What's up, princess?" Thwack. She nailed him right in the face. Perfect aim. The yard went silent. Mike wiped the snow off his face. "Oh, it is on." For 20 minutes, Sarah Jenkins, the girl who wouldn't sweat in high school, led a guerrilla war. She was diving behind bushes, making snowballs like a machine, and laughing. It was a loud, real, belly laugh I'd never heard before. Her hair came loose, wet tangles sticking to her neck, mascara slightly smudged. She looked wild, beautiful. My dad stood next to me on the porch. She's good people, Mark. Yeah, she's all right. Does she know about the shop? The real numbers? She knows enough. She looks at you, Dad said. When you're not looking, she looks at you like you hung the moon. I looked at him. It's an act, Dad. I know acting. Your sister acted like she liked her ex-husband for 3 years. That girl. He pointed at Sarah, currently tackling my cousin into a drift. That isn't fake. I felt a knot in my stomach. It was supposed to be a transaction. 50 grand. But looking at her, laughing, breathless, dirty, she was stealing them. She was becoming part of the family. And I was the one feeling like the outsider in my own life. Day 7. The dinner. We were at the big table, good wine flowing, the noise rising. My sister Karen, the shark in a cashmere cardigan, hates that Sarah took over the vacation. So, Karen said, stabbing her roast. Sarah, you're an event planner. Mark fixes cars. That's an interesting match. Here we go, I muttered, gripping my glass till my knuckles turned white. I just mean, Karen continued, flashing a fake smile that showed too many teeth. You're polished. Sarah, you wear suits. Mark comes home with grease in his hair. He smells like gas. Does that bother you? The dirt. The table went silent. Mom looked down. Dad kept chewing. I waited for the script. Oh, he cleans up nice. Instead, Sarah put her fork down with a sharp clink. She turned to Karen. Her posture shifted, shoulders back, chin up. CEO mode. You know what bothers me, Karen? Her voice was ice. What bothers me is that people think a suit makes a man. I used to think that. I was wrong. She reached under the table and grabbed my hand. Hard. Her palm was warm, grounding me. Mark doesn't just fix cars. He saves things. He takes broken junk everyone gave up on and makes it run. He built an empire with his bare hands while the guys in suits I went to college with were asking Daddy for rent money. She looked at me. Her eyes were shining. Wet. He is the smartest, most reliable, most dedicated man I know. And honestly, I'm the lucky one. He's out of my league. Mom looked stunned. Karen looked like she swallowed a bug. I looked at Sarah, my heart hammering against my ribs. This wasn't the deal. It was too specific. Too real. Later, we went for a walk to escape the house. We stood by the frozen lake, the moon reflecting on the ice, the air smelling like pine needles and cold. Nice speech, I said, my voice rough. You really sold it. I wasn't selling anything, she said, hugging her coat tight and shivering. She turned to me. Her cheeks were flushed. I meant it, Mark. Every word. She stepped close, smelling like vanilla and cold air. The contract says I have to act like your girlfriend. It doesn't say I can't enjoy it. I didn't ask. I leaned in and kissed her. She kissed back, desperate. She grabbed my jacket lapels and pulled me down. It tasted like wine and heat. It was supposed to be fake, but standing in the snow, it felt like the only real thing in my life. January 2nd. Vacation over. Contract done. I was in my office, blinds drawn, staring at the check. She had paid me back the first installment early. The door opened. She walked in. She looked different, no power suit. She wore jeans and a big soft sweater, with her hair down in loose waves over her shoulders. She looked comfortable. I felt sick. I guess that's it, she said. You did good, I said, staring at the wall because I couldn't look at her. Mom loves you. Karen, shut up. Mission accomplished. Mark, the debt is cleared, Sarah. Keep the money. Consider a bonus. Go live your life. Find a guy in a suit. I was pushing her away. Self-sabotage. I didn't want to hear her say she was leaving, so I made sure I said it first. She didn't leave. She walked to the desk, her boots clicking on the floor. She grabbed a black Sharpie and an old invoice, then slammed it down. I'm not going anywhere. Excuse me. I'm changing my vote. She wrote on the paper with fast, angry strokes. The marker squeaked. She spun around. Big, bold letters. Most likely to be the love of my life. I was wrong in high school, she said, her voice shaking, tears welling up. I was an arrogant little girl who didn't know anything. I don't want to change the past, but I'm changing the vote now. She took a breath. I don't want you to be alone, because I don't want to be alone either. I want to be with you. For real. No contract. I looked at the paper, then at her. The anger was gone. The resentment evaporated. I stood up and walked around the desk. Voting is closed, I said softly. She flinched, looking crushed. But, I whispered, pulling her in and wrapping my arms around her waist. I own the place. I can make an exception. I kissed her. No audience. No Karen. Just us, in a shop that smelled like oil and ozone, figuring out the future.